Don't understand when we are in power, the battles we gotta fight that you will never know. All of us here at Sherry, and I know that you have seen the news, and I'm ready to address it. Our show has not been renewed for another season. And I wanna say to y'all, everybody, y'all try not to faint or fall out, because healthcare is expensive.
When the news first broke that Sherry would not be returning for another season, the official statement from Debmar Mercury sounded polished, measured, and almost reassuring. The company spoke about the evolving daytime television landscape. They praised the show's creative energy and momentum. They described Sherry Shepherd as incredibly talented and suggested that they hope to explore other opportunities with her on different platforms. On paper, it sounded supportive, but in television, supportive language often accompanies difficult decisions. And more often than not, that kind of carefully crafted statement appears when a show has already been canceled. Then one detail emerged that made people pause. Sherry Shepherd did not find out about the cancellation from a phone call. She didn't hear it during a private meeting with executives. She wasn't even given a quiet heads up before the news became public. She learned that her own show had been canceled by reading an article, exactly the same way the audience did. That same day, another major daytime host delivered a very different kind of announcement. Kelly Clarkson revealed that her own daytime program would also be coming to an end. But Kelly did it herself, live on air, speaking directly to viewers. She controlled the moment. She framed the story. She said goodbye on her own terms. Sherry never got that opportunity. And in an industry where exits can define legacies just as much as debuts do, the contrast between those two departures spoke volumes. When networks respect a host, they usually give them the chance to leave with dignity, with the spotlight still firmly in their hands. What happened to Sherry suggested something very different might have been unfolding behind the scenes. A few weeks before the cancellation became public, something happened on Sherry that people are now revisiting with completely new eyes. Netflix had just released a documentary examining the legacy of America's Next Top Model. The film revisited years of controversy surrounding the show, particularly criticism of how contestants were treated during its run. Tyra Banks, the face and creator of the franchise, suddenly found herself under renewed scrutiny. When Tyra appeared on Sherry, Shepherd chose not to attack her. Instead, she offered a thoughtful defense. She acknowledged that the show had flaws. She admitted there were moments that deserved criticism. But she also made a larger point. Tyra, she said, had been a young Black woman navigating an industry that rarely left room for people like her. She had been building something new while carrying immense pressure to keep it alive. Then Sherry said something that, at the time, sounded like empathy. Now it sounds almost like a confession. She explained that audiences often don't understand what it actually takes to keep a show on the air. Hosts, she suggested, are sometimes told to do certain things if they want their programs to survive. They are asked to weigh difficult choices. Sometimes they agree to things they later question. As she spoke, she became visibly emotional. At the time, viewers assumed she was simply passionate about defending another Black woman in entertainment. But after the cancellation of her own show and the rumors about why, it's hard not to hear those words differently. Looking back, it sounded less like she was talking about Tyra Banks and more like she was quietly describing her own situation. She just wasn't saying it outright. The official explanation for the cancellation is simple. The daytime television market is changing. Ratings are harder to maintain. Networks are adjusting their strategies. But the story that began circulating afterward paints a far more complicated picture. According to multiple reports, Sherry had entered contract negotiations for a 5th season with a clear set of demands. At the top of the list was a substantial pay increase. She also wanted to restructure the production schedule. Instead of the current routine, she hoped to consolidate tapings into fewer filming days. That change would free up time for her to pursue other projects, acting roles, comedy work, and opportunities beyond the show. From Sherry's perspective, it likely felt like the right moment to negotiate. After all, she had delivered 4 successful seasons. The show had secured major celebrity bookings. Ratings were steady enough to keep it competitive in the crowded daytime space. In her mind, she had proven the concept worked. But from the network's perspective, the request created a different conversation entirely. A host asking for more money while simultaneously asking to work fewer days can be a complicated negotiation. And according to industry sources, the relationship between Sherry and Debmar Mercury had already been cooling for some time. Tensions had reportedly been building quietly for nearly a year. When her new contract terms arrived, the network didn't counter. They canceled the show. What made the situation particularly painful was the timing. Sherry had been expecting a renewal. In fact, she had already begun planning for what season 5 might look like. By some accounts, she had been discussing potential changes and new ideas for the next phase of the show. Then the cancellation arrived suddenly and without warning. Later, Sherry described feeling blindsided. And that kind of reaction rarely comes from someone who saw the end coming. There is another piece of the story that never received the same level of attention in headlines, but may have been equally important. When Sherry first stepped into the time slot once occupied by Wendy Williams, she made an early decision that reshaped the production. 2 experienced executive producers from the Wendy Williams show, David Perler and Suzanne Bass, were let go. These were industry veterans with deep knowledge of the format. Their removal signaled that the new show would operate under a very different leadership structure. To replace them, Sherry brought in someone she trusted deeply, John Murray. He was not just a colleague. He was widely described as one of Sherry's closest confidants, a prayer partner, a friend she relied on both professionally and personally. She gave him substantial influence behind the scenes. But according to multiple crew members, the working environment that followed became deeply difficult. Several reports describe Murray as frequently belittling staff members, shouting during meetings, and creating divisions within the production team. Some employees claimed he aggressively pushed his own agenda while fostering a tense atmosphere on set. Over time, the energy backstage reportedly shifted. People began dreading entering the space. When Murray eventually left the show, crew members described feeling an almost immediate sense of relief. One account even compared the moment to having a heavy weight lifted from the entire production. If those descriptions are accurate, the network wasn't simply dealing with a show's ratings performance. They were managing an internal workplace issue that was slowly draining morale. And in television, toxic environments rarely stay hidden forever. Eventually, they affect the product itself. While the story of Sherry's cancellation was still unfolding, another narrative suddenly began gaining momentum. Wendy Williams might be coming back. At first, the rumors sounded like fan speculation, but the details that started emerging were surprisingly specific. Multiple sources reported that producers were already discussing plans for a potential return in 2026. Public demand is certainly there. Wendy's manager has said that he receives more calls from fans asking about her comeback than for any other client he represents. But the rumored preparations go far beyond simple interest. Reports suggest that a 3-floor penthouse apartment in New York is being arranged for Wendy, complete with a built-in elevator to accommodate her mobility challenges related to lymphedema. A custom mechanical purple chair is allegedly being designed to glide her directly onto the stage, eliminating the need for a traditional walking entrance. 2 full-time personal drivers have been discussed. A personal chef, a sobriety coach, even a life coach dedicated to helping her maintain stability. On top of that, Wendy has reportedly agreed to both scheduled and random health testing as part of the arrangement. And perhaps the most surprising detail of all, sources claim she has negotiated a retroactive, multi-million-dollar payment from Debmar Mercury to compensate for how she was removed from her show years ago. Without a farewell episode, without closure, and without control over the narrative. Those are not casual ideas. They are detailed logistical plans. And when arrangements reach that level of specificity, it usually means discussions have progressed far beyond the early brainstorming stage. But before any comeback can become reality, one major obstacle still stands in the way. Wendy Williams remains under legal guardianship. Since 2022, another individual has had control over her finances and key life decisions, including career choices. As long as that guardianship remains in place, Wendy cannot independently sign a television contract. In other words, the entire comeback conversation depends on one legal door opening first. And according to recent reports, that door might finally be about to open. Wendy has reportedly passed 2 separate cognitive capacity evaluations with perfect scores. Independent assessments found no evidence that she lacked the mental ability to manage her own affairs. Yet the guardianship remained. Additional evaluations were required, some of which were scheduled through channels connected to the guardian overseeing her case. Wendy addressed the situation publicly during an interview on The Breakfast Club. At one point, she asked the hosts a blunt question. Did she seem cognitively impaired to them? The hosts laughed. Wendy didn't. She was making a serious point. She had been calling into the show multiple times a day, engaging with conversations, demonstrating awareness and persistence, hardly the behavior of someone incapable of managing their own life. Now, insiders say the guardianship could be lifted within weeks. If that happens, the legal barrier disappears. But there is one final complication that has barely been discussed. When Wendy divorced her former husband, Kevin Hunter, their settlement included a very specific clause. She is required to pay him alimony only if she is actively working in television. That condition explains why, after leaving daytime TV, Wendy explored other options like radio and streaming. Those platforms would allow her to work without triggering the financial obligation. Returning to daytime television changes everything. If she signs a deal for that same 10 a.m. slot again, the payments to Kevin Hunter reportedly resume. In other words, a triumphant return to television could also mean writing regular checks to the man many believe contributed to the collapse of her marriage and business empire. Wendy Williams is not someone who makes decisions lightly. Her team is undoubtedly aware of this clause. Either they have a strategy to challenge or renegotiate it, or it remains one of the major details still being quietly negotiated. But one way or another, it is part of the real story behind the comeback narrative. When you step back and look at everything together, the picture becomes clearer. The cancellation of Sherry wasn't simply about ratings or changing market conditions. It reflected contract tensions, internal workplace challenges, and a deteriorating relationship between host and network. At the same time, conversations about Wendy Williams' return were already beginning to circulate. Whether those plans existed before Sherry's cancellation, or whether the cancellation created the opening, is something only the executives involved truly know. But the timing is hard to ignore. One show ends, and within a day, the possibility of its predecessor returning suddenly becomes headline news. That suggests either a plan that had been quietly developing for months, or a network moving very quickly to fill a gap. Neither scenario would be particularly comforting for Sherry. And beneath all of this lies a larger question that daytime television rarely confronts directly. Why do Black women in this industry so often leave under these circumstances? Kelly Clarkson was able to announce her departure on her own show, speaking directly to her audience. Wendy Williams was quietly placed under guardianship, while her social media accounts were transferred to her replacement. Sherry Shepherd learned her show had been canceled through a news article. The pattern is difficult to ignore. Wendy Williams built something that proved remarkably hard to replicate. Ratings after her departure made that clear. If the reports about her return are accurate, custom chair, apartment, retroactive payment, and all, It suggests the network now recognizes what it lost. But a comeback only works if the person at the center of it is truly ready. Not ready for the cameras. Ready for real. Wendy has endured years of public struggles, serious health challenges, financial exploitation, the loss of personal autonomy through guardianship, and the painful experience of watching it all unfold in front of the world. The audience may want her back. The network may want her back. But the most important question is whether this return, if it happens, is truly about Wendy Williams, or whether the industry is simply finding another use for something it once discarded. That is the part of the story everyone should be watching most closely.